pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call the roll. Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
All right, first up is approval of the agenda and addendum items. I'd like to make the recommendation on behalf of staff and the board that we remove agenda item 7, open to the public. That'll be discussed a little bit later in our bylaw revisions. So I'd like to make that recommendation. With that, approval of the agenda and addendum items, please.
You need a second on that?
Motion, please.
Did you just remove the open to public for today's agenda?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we can.
So the published agenda is no longer the agenda you were following today? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the sign sheet outside for open to the public, is
No.
that relevant?
I need a second on that.
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay. That will call the roll to approve the agenda. Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
And Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Thank you. Right, the volunteer award. Carol Owen, what's up, Carol? Here's some.
Oh, John. If we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I got this blue pen.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from last
Thank you,
year.
Jackie.
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All right, thank you. Call roll, Mr. Gertz. Yes. Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Thank you, Jackie. Thanks for catching that. Moving on. Hi, Carol. Welcome. Thanks for coming today. Mr. Gertz, would you read the volunteer award for Carol Owens? I have to say this before we start. Our volunteers are quite humble. We had a very hard time, and we could not find any volunteer month, so we're going to recognize volunteers by the quarter, and we're recognizing Carol so we can praise her during the months of July, August, and September. Maybe card, flowers, donuts, cake, we'll see. So, but Carol, congratulations, and Bill, if you would read the...
Carol, will you excuse me? We don't have a lectern today, so I'm going to read this from my chair. And I do enjoy your socks.
I love, if you're gonna wear socks, wear fun socks.
Carol Owens, third quarter volunteer award. Carol Owens is a volunteer who gives of her time and talents in all areas of the Park District. Carol works at the front desk of the Westwood Nature Center, where she is pleasant to both park patrons and the Geauga Park District employees. Carol can also be seen assisting with our Nature Scopes binocular program and is a major part of the Nature Arts Festival. Quilting is another big hobby of Carol's, and she always jumps in to volunteer when projects with quilts are needed. We appreciate Carol, and I'm beyond lucky to have her as such a faithful volunteer.
Thanks,
You get this? Thank you. Add 50 cents and get you a half a cup of You shake her hand, Carol. We're lucky to have you.
Oh, no. I am lucky to work with the nicest, the naturalists, they are just super people.
Did you say the nastiest in the world?
You-
No, I know what you mean. They are. One of the first duties that I took on when the judge appointed me to the position was to try to get to know the people in the park and stuff, their employees and their top girl.
They are absolutely involved.
Good people.
And I just love being around them. So I'm the lucky one.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for your dedication and service. Next up is presentation of the financial statement for the month of May. We get there. For the month of May, the general fund had a beginning balance on May 1st of $3,085,24126. Personnel expenditures of $308,985.33. Vouchers of $270,865.12. For a total of $579,850.45. Revenue for the general fund for the month of May, $23,878.07. For an ending fund balance on May 31st of $2,529,268.88. And land improvement, starting fund balance of $5,223,862.34. Expenditures, $41,497.94. Revenue of $1,776.58. For an ending fund balance for the land improvement fund of $5,184,140.98. Retirement reserve account at a starting fund balance of $57,578.57. Revenue of $2,303 for an ending fund balance of $57,601.60. And last but not least, the Park Capital Reserve Account, starting fund balance of $2,850,000, revenue of $760 for an ending fund balance of $2,850,760. If there are no questions about the May financial statement, it will be entered into the record. All right.
John, if you're going on vouchers, I would like to commend Brett Vallis. I noticed that he bought 2 one-ton pickup
First thing
trucks,
they did was to eliminate
four-wheel
the
drive,
one period today.
plow-ready
Is your year?
systems for $25,000 a piece. Now that is, if I had to go in and buy a one-ton pickup, I'd pay probably $40,000.
That's okay.
But how he ever got 2 of them for 50 is beyond me, but it's great. It saved us a bundle of money. And he should be commended.
With that, I would entertain a motion to accept the vouchers.
So moved.
Any further discussion or questions? Combined general and land improvement fund total vouchers for the month, personnel and everything was a grand total of $621,348.39. Questions, any further discussion? Now I'll call a roll for a vote to approve the monthly vouchers. Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Next up is new business. We have one item to declare surplus property. That is an old Devil flat panel monitor. We declare it as scrap.
I so moved to remove property.
I second.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is budget amendment number 5 to the 2016 budget. Is a resolution requesting, there was an increase in what it costs for county auditor to work through the process of certifying tax expenses and financial oversight. And the memorandum serves as a request for a supplemental appropriation to increase the 2016 supplemental appropriation in the general fund for the amount of $12,000.
I so moved.
Get a second, please.
Second.
All right. Any discussion or any questions? All right. Now call the vote. Mr. Gertz.
Yes.
Mrs. DeTore.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
All right. Next up is budget amendment number 6, resolution. This is certified revenue that we received from the Pine Brook Wetlands Mitigation Bank. You saw that on the monthly statement, the financial statement last month, and now we need to go ahead and certify that money. So the amount of $389,760 for the payment wetland mitigation credit sold for the Pine Brook Wetlands Mitigation Site. So this memorandum serves as a resolution to approve Amendment 6 to the 2016 budget for an additional $389,760 in revenue certifications to the Land Improvement Fund. Any discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions, any discussion? If not, Mr. Gertz,
Yes.
Mrs. DeFore,
Yes.
and Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is proposed changes to the Board of Park Commissioners bylaws. Another item of housekeeping, if you will. The changes to Article 16 or Article 16 only. The changes are presented in the form of strike-throughs, so where you see a line through the text, those are the proposed changes. So if I get a motion, go to the table for discussion.
For discussion, John, I'd like to make a comment. I have no problem with changing the bylaws as it concerns the meeting agenda. I've served on this board for over a year and a half. And most of the time, those meetings are dominated by the bully pulpit syndrome. Very few of them are constructive. And I hate to say this because I know I'm going to offend some of my friends, but it serves no purpose. If you have a problem with this board, then send a letter in and we'll consider it. Now, I don't agree with the latter part of this change, which means doing away with the roll call, pledge of allegiance, and so on. So I'd just like to make it clear that I do agree with the first part of that.
Yeah, what I take out of these is removing them does not mean that they can't be in there. It just doesn't bind you to them. So, you know, you won't always have a meeting that is just to do vouchers or just to do that. But by having this in here, you're bound a meeting to have these items in here, in the agenda. What this does is allow us to choose what needs to be in the agenda rather than forcing us to have a meeting with a financial statement or a voucher or all of those things.
Well, I think that this has been abused because it's been used as a bully pulpit. And we don't need that. We don't need a bully pulpit.
You do need input from the public. It's a public board.
Then Catherine, then send a letter in.
Mr. Gertz, I've sent letters and had no response, that's all I'm gonna say.
So what do you need from us? This is next month we'll be voting on this?
That's correct. That's correct. Your bylaws, the board bylaws require that we bring it to your attention, and next month you'll be voting on it. We bring it to your attention, so there can be public discussion.
Since the bylaws won't be
During a public
changed.
meeting. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion. Entertain a motion unless there is discussion on changes that you, the board, would like.
Since the bylaws won't be changed now, will there be a public comment period today?
Mr. Augustine, we're trying to conduct a business meeting here, please. So the motion will be to accept.
For today?
The motion will be
To accept the bylaws as presented to be voted on at the July board meeting. So with the changes presented. Thank you. Get a second.
I'll second.
Go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Gertz.
John, I'm going to abstain because I still don't agree with that latter part.
Okay. Let me just comment on that. I truly view this, as Mrs. DeTore said, an issue of housekeeping. And we've had things come on and off, for example, things like Pledge of Allegiance. It is simply, as Jackie did, I believe in January, February, to allow the president of the park board to set the agenda, then having the agenda item to approve or amend the agenda at the beginning of the board meeting, that's the intent of that. But I see your point, Bill, and thank you very much. So Bill abstains, and Mrs. DeTore, your vote.
I made the motion. Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next up, so those will be entered into the record and they will be voted on at the July board meeting. Next up is a planning and operations update, looking at our 2016 construction projects. Construction season is underway. Matt, anything you want to present or talk about?
Okay, so you have in your packet kind of an update on all the projects currently under construction, and where things are at with those projects. In addition, just to kind of give you an update, the Nassau Station project is underway. They've started demolition and clearing. Orchard Hills Park, the asphalt trail work that was being done out there is completed. And then the trails at the Rookery and Big Creek Park, the Ruth Kennan, resurfacing those trails are gonna happen a little bit later in the summer. Affelder House renovations was a project we did internally with our construction crew. That's completed and open to the public. And then the Affelder Falls Trail is just wrapping up here in the next week or two, and that'll be opened up soon. And then coming up later on, Observatory Park, we're doing some meadow and wetland projects out there internally with our construction crew and NRM staff. Those will be getting started a little bit closer to August, and then the seeding of the meadows, and that will be more of a fall seeding. Also in our division, planning and natural resource management, the natural resource management team had a bio blitz out at the Rookery on June 4th, just a few weeks ago. They had about 20 to 25 participants, biologists from all over Northeast Ohio, Cleveland Metro Parks, Summit Metro Parks, Holden, Kent State, Cleveland State, Natural History Museum, and the Ohio EPA all participated in that. So got a lot of good information from that. And then in grounds and facilities, Brett and his guys have been doing a good job with just routine, park maintenance, keeping the facilities all ready for the programs. And then also, they did do a project with the Burton Rotary. They put in a fishing pier over at Walter C. Best that opened up earlier this month. So they've been kind of working away too. So that's kind of an overview of sort of the stuff going on project-wise.
All right.
And I was going to say, if you guys don't have any questions, then I can kind of go on to 2017 stuff.
Any questions for Matt? No motion or resolution there, just providing you with some updates. All right, if not, we'll move on to 2017 project presentation.
So this would be the projects we're currently working on that would be for moving towards construction in 2017. Typically, as we talked about kind of with our planning process, we work through sort of preliminary planning, design development, and construction drawings. And when we get into larger projects that have to go out to bid, we're typically working at a standpoint of, we're at that point where now we'd be moving more forward into bringing engineering firms on board to do more of the design development, construction drawing, and other things. So this is kind of where we're transitioning from the work we've done in-house with our staff to where we'd be working with some outside consultants. So what we're looking at currently for next year is basically 3 projects. Maple Highlands Trail South, which you can see on the map, is the section of the bike trail that runs from Headwaters down through the village of Middlefield to Swine Creek. That was a project in 2014. We finished some sections of trail, so that is an aggregate trail all the way from Headwaters down to Swine Creek. As I go through the projects in more detail, I'll go over kind of what we're proposing as far as some improvements. The other project is down at Swine Creek. There's an existing playground at Swine Creek. We're looking at some improvements there. Swine Creek's one of our older parks, and the playground's been there for a while, so we're looking at some things we could do to update it and add some new things. And then the final project I'll talk about is the High Cattle property. This is a property in Clarendon Township. It's actually bordered by Maple Highlands Trail. It's actually a property we've had since, I believe, the late 90s. We acquired it, so it's been almost 20 years, and there's really no access to it. It's pretty much limited as far as the access. So we're going to go through some ideas that we've done master plan-wise as far as maybe some new park development, which I was looking back through. I don't think we've done a new park development since 2010. So it's been about 7 years since we've really even looked at opening up a new park. For Swine Creek, what we'd be looking at, this is kind of the existing sort of play equipment that's down there. There's a shelter. We did some improvements to the restrooms a few years ago. But it's kind of an area that we see a lot of use for picnics and use of the shelter. The play equipment you can see is a little bit older and dated. So what we're looking at is going in, evaluating some of the equipment and looking at also adding some new equipment to that area. So this is something that basically we're at the stage now where we go out and start looking, working with some different companies on types of play equipment that we can incorporate. Conceptually, this is kind of giving you an idea of what we'd be looking at. But that's something that we've seen. All of our shelters where we have playgrounds, they're very popular. Most of our shelters, we see a lot of use where there's always kids of all ages there. So, having that playground and that opportunity there, I think is something important to offer, as an amenity there. So that's kind of the project at Swine Creek. Maple Mountains Trail South. So this is where I was saying Headwaters is up here. Swine Creek's down here. The trail's about 5.6 miles long. As you can see right now, this is the current condition. It's a 12-foot wide aggregate trail. So the improvements we're looking at for this project would be coming in and actually doing a 10-foot wide asphalt surface. So if you can picture Maple Mountains Trail north from basically Lake County all the way down to Headwaters, we'd be looking at asphalting this section of trail there. So it would be basically a multi-purpose biking trail, more along the lines of the rest of the trail. Part of this project would be looking at stormwater management. When we did the first phase, part of the stormwater management that we had to go through with jug of stormwater was that if we did come back and do asphalt, we would have to submit for looking at biocells, filter strips, any kind of stormwater management that may be required along the trail. So really at this phase, we're at a point where we'd be going out and working with engineers on what we need to do for stormwater management and then also developing the details of the construction drawings for the asphalt. One other part of this project would be looking at creating some nodes along the trail, which would basically be at Headwaters. Right now we're across the 608. You actually go out onto the drive and then cross over to the trail, so it almost kind of stops and starts. What we'd be looking at is doing a trail alignment where the trail would actually connect sort of, to me, in a circulation way that makes more sense, where it's very direct and identifiable where you're crossing. At that point, we'd be looking at maybe doing a node where we might have a trailhead pergola like we've done in some other areas like the spur area, the bike trail. And then also down at Terra Creek is another area where we might do a little area where you could pull off, park, and then also access the trail. So those are also incorporated into this project as far as what we're looking to do at this point. And then the last project is the High Kaplan property. So this is an existing property in Clarendon. These are some of the existing conditions out there. We have about a 5.5 acre pond, wetlands, a lot of forested area, some meadow areas, and kind of a diverse habitat. Maple Highlands Trail actually borders the south of this property and cuts through it. So there's a lot of opportunities to connect into a lot of our other parks. Headwaters, Mountain Run Station, Chardon. This offers a great opportunity to really open up a park that would be not only accessible by car. Most of our parks, a lot of the visitors our parks are driving to them. That's just the nature of kind of, it's a little bit more of a rural county. But this would be an opportunity that actually people would be able to bike from Chardon. It's about 4 miles from Chardon down to here, and that's another 4 miles down to Headwaters. So it's kind of in a location where it opens us up to a lot of people actually being able to access the park, not just in a vehicle. The existing conditions, it's 127 acres. There's about 28 acres of kind of fields that right now are kind of hay fields over along 608. It's kind of hard to see, but this is Clarendon, Troy over on the west, 608 right here, and then Chardon, Windsor kind of on the northeast, and then this is Maple Highlands Trail kind of running down through here. You can see the breakdown. It is in the Cuyahoga River watershed. We have about 22% of the site is ag, and then 63% is forest, and then the other 19 acres you'll see is kind of a mix of wetlands and swamp wetlands. This is a breakdown just of the area. So this is deciduous forest in kind of the purple. Swamp wetlands are kind of in the yellow areas. And then we have some scrub brush areas, about almost 5 acres. And then some meadow areas, roughly 30 acres. But the majority of the site is pretty much forested area. And then we do have the 5.5 acres of pond. So looking at the site, initially we're looking at the things that, from a program standpoint, we see a lot of visitor use. Obviously with the lake, access to the lake, fishing piers, boardwalks, those sort of things, we're always looking at how we can get people down and close to the water. Also, trails and hiking is one of our big uses. So looking at, since we're dealing with some wetland areas, maybe where we can incorporate in boardwalks into our trail system so we can create kind of nice trail systems through the property. Obviously, wildlife viewing is something we see a lot in our parks, having observation decks, bird lines, those sort of things. And then the other thing is, again, taking advantage of the connectivity to Maple Highlands Trail South to really start to develop a park system that is really running through the county along the bike trail. But the other thing that we see a lot of use is events and our shelters. We have, the Worker is one of our only kind of all year round enclosed shelters. Most of our other shelters are kind of combination of small enclosed open area. So when we started talking about it within the staff and that, one of the big things we see is our shelters are heavily used. I mean, if you look at the reservations, pretty much every weekend, there's graduation parties, birthday parties, all kinds of events. So we're looking at really developing from a program standpoint something that can be used all year round. And you'll see as we get into the master plan too, there's some other things we think where we can utilize space, even getting into some of the naturals programming. When we talk to the naturals department, you know, utilizing a connection for camps, you know, they have a lot of events like art festivals, those sort of things where it'd be another opportunity where we could handle events like that. And then the third thing is looking at, again, offering things for kids to plan. Now you'll see in this part what we're looking at, something that doesn't just capture that young age, but something even getting into adolescence and that, something that's going to be fun that they can try to take advantage of. So it's nature-based play, which if you're not familiar with, it's going to be a little bit different, but it's climbing logs, ropes, rocks, that sort of thing. So we have some examples of that. Again, we're at the master planning stage, so this is kind of sort of big picture, sort of what we're looking at here. So I'll kind of run through this. The diverse habitat includes forest canopies, uplands, ponds, wetlands, streams, open areas, supporting a hierarchy of systems both naturally and constructed. We worked with Paul and his management plan that he prepared a few years ago for the High Castle property. This area up here was heavily impacted and developed. So we're really looking at focusing sort of what we would call the infrastructure or developed part of a park in areas that are already disturbed. So the shelter and event space would kind of be up in this area. The nature-based play would kind of, there's sort of an open area in here that relates well to the bike trail, but also is connected back to the main park. Then for the pond areas we're looking at, basically the front pond will be a little bit more active where we're kind of fishing in that. This back pond, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, it's very shallow, it's almost kind of wetland-like. That might be an area where we're picturing more, you know, bird watching, kind of habitat enjoyment, but this would be more kind of, you know, fishing piers and that sort of thing up in the front. And then this would be a proposed trail system through kind of the forest area of the park that would connect up to the bike trail. And then also we have kind of a small pull-off kind of area with a shelter, picnic shelter off of 608 too, to kind of pick up visitors that may want to access the park from the 608 side. Whenever we look at new park development, and this goes back to Orchard Hills Observatory Park, we always look at sustainable design. So we're going to be looking at, you know, incorporating good practices for stormwater management, bioswales, bioretention, how we're picking up the runoff of parking areas, using those systems not only for stormwater management, but also filtration. So you'll see, as I talk about the shelter area, how we've incorporated that in. Full cutoff lights, LEDs, those are all things that we look at kind of from that standpoint, looking at our long-term kind of costs, not This is a breakdown of kind of the percentage of development for the site. So you can see the proposed infrastructure, and this includes the trails, which again are aggregate trails, which are pervious, so